Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Alan Ladd stars in an episode of Box 13. That goes back to November 21st, 1948. That was some 74 years ago. The Diamond in the Sky. Thanks for spending part of your Monday with us here. This is the 21st day of November, 325th day of the year, 40 days remaining until we get to 2023. North Carolina, happy birthday. You ratified the Constitution on this date in 1789, admitted as the 12th U.S. state. Confederate President Jefferson Davis appointed Judah Benjamin Secretary of War in 1861. Thomas Edison announced his invention of the phonograph on this date in 1877, a machine that could record sound. Albert Einstein's paper, Does the Inertia of a Body Dependent Upon Its Energy Content? In 1905, published in the Journal of Annales de Physique. This paper revealed the relationship between energy and mass and the equation E equals mc squared. In 1922, Rebecca Latimer Felton of Georgia took the oath of office in 1922, becoming the first female United States Senator. Radio program King Biscuit Time broadcast for the first time in 1941. It would become the largest running daily radio program in history and the most famous live blues radio program. Now, the completion of the Alaska Highway is celebrated on this date in 1942.
American engineers have conquered the untamed Canadian wilderness. Mountains and muskeg and trackless pine tangle have given way to the Alaska Highway. Today, it is open for the convoying of supplies to the Alaskan warfront. A 1,600-mile link with the base of men and materials in Canada and the United States. Officially designated as the Alcan Highway, its completion 3 months ahead of schedule has won the praise of an embattled people. Praise for the American soldier engineers, 20th century pioneers, who worked long days and nights in temperatures ranging from 35 degrees below zero to 90 above.
An excerpt from a 1942 War Department film, The Highway Not Usable by General Vehicles until 1943. President Nixon, Japanese Premier Iksu Sato agreed in Washington on this date in 1969 on the return of Okinawa to Japanese control in 1972. Under terms of the agreement, U.S. retained its rights to bases on the island, but they were to be nuclear-free. The embassy of the U.S. Embassy in Islamabad, Pakistan, attacked on this date in 1979 by a mob, was set on fire, 4 people killed. A deadly fire broke out on this date in 1980 at what was then the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas, now known as Bally's Las Vegas.
On my way to work, the MGM Hotel was engulfed in flames from the bottom floor all the way as high as the 10th floor you could see. The terrible tragedy. It looked like the end of the world to me. My God, it was smoke and people everywhere. There was about 40 fire trucks, ambulance people, and they were trying to contain the flames, but it was burning faster than they could do anything with. They had people on the ledges and helicopters trying to get them off the roof.
87 people killed, more than 650 injured in what was the worst disaster in Nevada history. Well, who shot J.R.? The Dallas episode Who Done It aired on this date in 1980, one of the highest-rated episodes of a TV show ever aired. President Reagan, Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev met for the first time in Geneva on this date in 1985 to hold talks on international diplomatic relations and the arms race.
We've packed a lot into the last 2 days. I came to Geneva to seek a fresh start in relations between the United States and the Soviet Union, and we have done this.
President Reagan proud of his accomplishments in dealing with Russia. Of course, when you deal from strength instead of weakness, makes a big difference. It was on this date In 1995, Toy Story released as the first feature-length film created completely using computer-generated imagery. 500,000 pieces of Chinese-made children's jewelry contaminated with lead recalled on this date in 2007. And it was a year ago today, an SUV plowed through a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. 6 people killed, 62 injured. Passing away on this date in history, writer, actor Robert Benchley.
I am confident that we may safely say at the present time that the Depression is over and that better business conditions are just around the corner. And when I say just around the corner, I mean just around the corner. Now, what were the primary causes of the Depression, as we called it? Overproduction, maladjustments in gold distribution, overproduction, deflation, too little thyroid secretion, or Platt's disease, too much vermouth, overproduction, and by the same token, underproduction. Then, too, there was the Gulf Stream. All of these helped lead to inflation, deflation, and overproduction, with a consequent depression.
Humorist Robert Benchley passing away on this date in history. Also passing away on this date, boxer Max Baer, the father of the man we remember best now as Jethro Bodine. Also announcer Harry Von Zell, actor Bill Bixby, the Mad Dog Maurice Vachon, and teen idol David Cassidy, all passing away on this date in history. This is the birth date of musician Coleman Hawkins, Eleanor Powell, also Joseph Campanella, Dr. John, the musician, and actor Harold Ramis. Birthday number 85 for Marlo Thomas. The wild Samoan, Afa Anoy, is 80 years old today. Cowboy Larry Mahan, 79. Actress Goldie Hawn, 77. Actress-singer, the daughter of Judy Garland, Lorna Luft, 70 years old. Musician Stephen Curtis Chapman is 60. From Knots Landing and Desperate Housewives, Nicolette Sheridan is 59. Wrestler Shane Douglas is 58. Singer Bjork is 57. Wrestlers Nikki and Brie Bella, 39. From The Hunger Games, Jenna Malone is 38. And singer Carly Rae Jepsen wants you to call her maybe since she turns 37 today. Those some of the people celebrating the 21st day of November as their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say... Happy birthday to you!
From 74 years ago today, November 21st, 1948, Alan Ladd and Box 13 on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 74 years, November 21st, 1948, Alan Ladd in Box 13.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of Star Times. You advertised for adventure? I have it for you. If you will go any place, I can offer Paris. If you will do anything, you are the man I need. If you're interested, call at my office any day between the hours of 10 a.m. and...
Any day between the hours of 10 a.m. and noon. I am at 247 Wabash Place, signed William Martin. Paris. Adventure. What a dream that could have been. It was, but the awakening was different.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Diamond in the Sky.
It sounded great. A trip to Paris and adventure for the frosting on the cake. Whoever Mr. William Martin was, he must have known that waving a deal like that in front of anyone was making it a sure thing. But Susie, as usual, had something to say.
I don't know, Mr. Holliday. Maybe it's just somebody kidding you.
That's the girl, Susie. Get out the wet blankets, spread them around.
Then again, maybe this Mr. Martin is beyond approach.
The word, Susie, is reproach. But I've got a brilliant idea.
What, Mr. Holliday?
It's all very simple. I go to see Mr. William Martin at 247 Wabash Place. Wabash Place was one of those little streets filled with small businesses. But number 247 was by itself. No display window in front like the others. I thumbed a bell button that had a card under it with William Martin engraved on it. 1 minute later, after introductions, I was looking across the desk at a short, stocky, apple-cheeked man who said,
"No one knows you have come here, Mr. Holliday?"
"No, just my secretary." "Oh, but she won't say anything."
"You're positive?"
"I am."
Ah, good. A cigarette, Mr. Holliday.
"Oh, yes, thanks."
"And a light." You do not like my brand, huh?
All this lacks is a fuse. What's in it?
My special tobacco. But here's an ashtray.
Thanks. Well, Mr. Martin, you wrote that letter to Box 13, and here I am.
Ah, good. Down to business, then.
He opened a drawer, took out a photograph, and slid it across the desk for me. What I saw was a picture of a diamond. But what a piece of ice. I was studying it when Martin spoke again.
I see by your expression, Mr. Holliday, that you are properly impressed.
Oh, I'm impressed, Mr. Martin. What is this, the Rock of Gibraltar or something?
Not quite. That is the Mirabulis Diamond.
Oh.
You've heard of it, then?
Yes, but how does it concern me?
Here. These credentials will tell you who I am.
William Martin.
Well, that's my name, yes, but, well, you look.
Martin passed me a sheaf of papers with his photo on them. He was William Martin, representative of Jason Vandercliffe. The name sounded familiar. Martin read my expression again, and...
Mr. Vandercliffe is a diamond merchant. He has recently purchased the Mirabilis for $1 million.
That's a lot of hay for a lot of ice.
I beg your pardon?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
The gem is in Paris. I am to get it and bring it over here.
I see. And, Box 13?
You will go with me, Mr. Holliday. I have reservations for you on the plane.
Oh, now, just a minute. I'm not a bodyguard, Mr. Martin, or a private detective.
Please. Nothing so crude, Mr. Holliday. No, I have a much better plan. But first, let me tell you something. There is no jewel thief in the world who would not risk everything to get the Mirabilis.
He could never sell it.
No. But it could be cut up, and any one of the smaller stones would more than repay the thief for their trouble.
Yes, I guess you're right. Okay, where do I come in?
Well, it is very simple. But like all simple things, it is brilliant. I thought of it.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now, you will pick up the diamond in Paris. I will go on the same plane, but we shall be complete strangers to each other. Do you begin to see, Mr. Holliday?
Sure. If anyone's wise that you're going over to get the stone, they'll follow you.
Exactly. But I won't have it. You will. I shall stroll around Paris as a tourist. Anyone following me will be, shall we say, following a red mackerel?
All right, let's say it. Oh, but there's only one thing wrong.
Wrong? I did not think of something important?
Yeah, that's right. Me. Suppose this plan doesn't fool anyone. Then I'm set up like a clay pigeon. You lose a Mirabulis, and I'm just another claim for the insurance company.
Oh, no, alors, you have no worry.
Well, maybe I worry easily, Mr. Martin, especially if I'm carrying $1 million worth of bait.
Mr. Holliday, only you and I know of this. There can be no leak of information unless you tell someone.
Oh, sure, I'll go around telling everyone that Dan Holliday's a setup. Here I am, fellas. Come and get me.
That's right. And thieves would kill to get the diamond. They have already. Why, I can tell you the history of the stone. Calcutta, murder. London, murder. Vienna, 2 deaths. And
Mr. Martin, skip the cook's tour of the morgue, will you?
But you advertised for adventure, Mr. Holliday. You will go any place, do anything. Well?
Touché. A little below the belt, but touché. And you've added one more to the population of Paris. Martin's plan was simple, and if it worked, a good way to get the Mirabulis into the United States. I said if. Hey, who invented that word? Well, it was 3 days later that I was ready to leave, passport okay, papers in order, and a phone call from Martin warning me not to recognize him when we were on the plane. I gave instructions to Susie and left for the airport. A few hours later, I was out over the Atlantic. Martin sat well in front of me and never once looked back. So I played it his way and beyond a quick look paid no attention to him. Then, as I was settling down to watch the ocean go past underneath,
Mr. Holliday? Mr. Dan Holliday?
Yes, I'm Holliday.
I'm Irene Carson, your stewardess.
Oh, how are you?
Fine. And you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Good. Here's a letter for you.
Letter? You're sure it's for me?
Mr. Holliday, seat 19, flight 12.
Check all the way through on that. All right, thanks, Miss Carson.
You're welcome, sir.
Oh, Miss Carson.
Is there something you want?
Well, just an answer to a question. Who gave you this?
Why, no one. It was among last-minute letters and packages and gifts for our passengers.
Oh, I see. Well, thanks again, Miss Carson.
Not at all, Mr. Holliday.
The letter was from Martin, brief and to the point. I was to go to an address in Paris and stay there until he called. Well, Mr. Martin was playing them close to his vest. Maybe he didn't trust me. And who could blame him? With $1 million worth of diamond for an ante, he wasn't dealing all the cards at once. Well, all I had to do was wait until morning in Paris. Early next morning, we landed at the Bourget Field. I stuck close behind Martin leaving the plane, but he didn't give me a tumble, so, well, I guess my cue was to hold up at the address mentioned in the letter until he got in touch. I was trying to flag down a taxi when...
Is this the last time you saw Paris, Mr. Holliday?
Oh, hello there, Miss Carson.
Looks like you're having trouble.
Yes, a little. Say, how do you get one of these grounded grasshoppers to stop?
You wave in French, like this.
Oh, just like that, huh?
Just like that.
Teach me to wave like that, and I'll be able to get a taxi in Paris. Of course, if you lend me your face.
There's nothing to it. Oh, I almost forgot. I came out here to find you.
Oh, something wrong? Passport, papers?
No, but I believe this is yours.
How did you get this?
I found it on the floor of the plane just after you left.
Oh?
What's the matter?
Nothing. Can I give you a lift?
No, thanks. I have my reports to make out.
Maybe some other time if we're still in Paris, huh?
Well, I'll be for 3 days before the hop back to the States.
No, I see. Well, thanks a lot, Miss Carson. I'll be seeing you.
I hope so, Mr. Holliday.
She walked away from me. In my hand was the letter from Martin telling me where to stay until I heard from him. I hopped into the cab, gave the driver the address, and then leaned back in the seat to do some thinking. The letter was in my inside coat pocket. Pretty hard for anything to fall out of there. But my coat had been on a hanger, and I'd been away from it just long enough for anyone to pick up that letter. So, if anyone was wise to the way the game was being played, Martin was home safe, while I stood a better than even chance of being picked off of first base. A half hour later, I was sitting in the little room at the address given me when... Yes? Oui? Hello?
Holiday?
Yes? Oh, Martin?
Yes. Everything was all right?
Fine. Now what?
You are sure no one knows where you are?
Well,
Holiday.
All right, no one knows. Now what?
Here is an address. Go to it. There you will pick up the package.
Okay.
Now, don't write this down. Remember it.
All right, I can remember it.
45 Rue de la Guerre.
45...
No. Do not repeat it there. Just remember it.
All right.
Please, Mr. Holliday, you understand my concern.
Look, my neck's out of yard too, Martin.
Of course. Now listen. There is a Monsieur Corre. Ask for him. Identify yourself with these words. I've come from the sky. You hear that?
I got it. Then what?
There will be no question. Those words are our code. Now, I am registered at the Vendôme Hotel. Leave the package for me at the desk.
Just like that, I leave a package
I know what I am doing. That is all. The rest is up to you, Mr. Holliday.
Okay.
And, Mr. Holliday,
Yes, what now?
for your sake, I sincerely hope nothing goes wrong.
The biggest stars got transcription shows, and the main reason they got transcription shows was so that they could come in and produce the shows in batches and not have to be in a studio for a specified time. That's why Box 13 went so well. November 21st, 1948, Box 13 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite station. We're listening to an episode of Box 13 starring Alan Ladd as it was broadcast on Sunday, November 21st, 1948. In the newspapers of that Sunday 74 years ago, these were some of the headlines. The United States took a formal stand yesterday against any United Nations action to take the Negev Desert from Israel and give it to the Arabs. U.S. Delegate Philip C. Jessup told the 58-member political committee of the UN Assembly no reduction in Israel's territory should be made without full consent of the Jews. This followed closely the declaration made by President Truman October 24th, the first formal U.S. statement before the UN, however, on the recommendations of Count Folks Bernatzian, the UN mediator. An unidentified London Sunday Times military correspondent last night blamed General Eisenhower for what he termed needless casualties, including the loss of 70,000 Americans in the 1944 Battle of the Bulge. This first heavy attack on the popular wartime Allied Supreme Commander also included a charge that Eisenhower's policy produced disastrous results for the Western Allies' post-war political struggle against Russia. The Sunday Times, a member of the Kemsley chain of British newspapers and not connected with the London Times, did not identify the author. Morley Richards, the Foreign Service executive, said, "I'm unable to comment on the writer as I don't know who he is, but it is safe to say he's in an authoritative position." In London, the Western European Alliance continued to work on a rough draft of a North Atlantic Defense Pact for presentation to Washington before President Truman's State of the Union address. Unconfirmed reports said representatives of Britain, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg have accepted a French proposal that the pact with Canada and the U.S. should last 50 years. The CIO Executive Board yesterday revoked the charter of the New York City CIO Council on the grounds that this body has given slavish adherence to the Communist Party line. The decision, which CIO President Philip Murray said was by a vote of 38-5, ends the case. In a joint statement, James Durkin, president of the New York City Union Council, and Saul Mills, executive secretary, said they will not appeal the verdict to the CIO convention this weekend, but they denied the charges of Communist Party dictation. They said they would, though, accept the decision in the interests of CIO unity. The U.S. Air Force said today C-54 transport flying the airlift to Berlin apparently had landed in the Soviet zone. An Air Force announcement said reports indicated the plane landed in Staaken, several miles north of the airfield in Berlin. Russian authorities have notified the U.S. Air Force Safety Center in Wiesbaden that the crew will be returned. Inhabitants of the Aleutian Islands enjoy almost complete freedom from heart diseases. That, according to a Harvard expedition to the North Pacific Islands, disclosed. The expedition, under the direction of Harvard's Peabody Museum, spent last summer in the subarctic area studying the habits, history, and health of the Aleutes, Mongoloid inhabitants of the Barren Islands stretching between North America and Asia. The expedition's findings were announced in a report by the Peabody Museum. And those some of the day's top news stories, as reported in the newspapers of Sunday, November 21st, 1948, on your radio, Box 13 starring Alan Ladd. The conclusion you'll hear next on this Monday, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Another Thanksgiving show on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The Harold Perry Show, the Honest Harold program, as it was originally broadcast 72 years ago, November 22nd, 1950, the Thanksgiving play. Honest Harold is directing and starring in the story of Miles Standish, A Story of Thanksgiving. That's on Tuesday's Classic Radio Theater. But now the conclusion of Box 13, starring Alan Ladd, November 21st, 1948, 74 years ago today.
And now, back to Box 13 and Diamond in the Sky with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
The rest was up to me, Martin said. All I had to do was collect the Mirabulis Diamond, see that I wasn't cut off base, deliver it to Martin, and then that was all. I hailed a cab on the street. 4-5 Rue de la Guerre. Beat.
Governor, with an accent like that, just talk English.
Guess it wasn't very good, huh? Are you an American?
No, a Londoner from Limehouse. Hop in, sir. That was 45 Rue de la Guerre, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. How did you know I was American?
You kidding? I drove a cab 3 years in Brooklyn. He wants to know how I know he's an American.
Okay, Limehouse. Then you should know what this means. Step on it, never mind the tickets, huh?
Blimey, I ain't heard that since the days in Flatbush. Hold on, pal. Here we go. You're here, Governor. Want me to wait?
Yeah, and keep that motor hot.
Hey, what's up?
I don't know.
Something hot?
Just wait.
Okay, Governor. I'll be here.
I went into the house, asked for Monsieur Corre, gave him the code words, "I've come from the sky." And without a word, he went to the fireplace, lifted out a brick, and handed me a velvet case. Well, after all this, I had to take a look. Inside the case, well, the Mirabulis looked like a piece of something that would make any crook risk his neck, or mine. I snapped the case shut. Corre said nothing, just watched me and showed me out. All right, Limehouse. Vendome Hotel and on the way. Don't bother to fly low.
I don't know what this is all about, sir, but when you went in that house, that car pulled up back of us and stopped.
Huh?
And they kept their motor hot, too.
Limehouse was right. It looked as though somebody had talked, but not me, and certainly not Martin. We pulled away, the big car tailed after us. Limehouse turned his head to talk to me.
They're tailing us, all right.
Can you get away?
With this act, the 3 cylinders still work, and I got asthma.
You gotta make it.
What did you do? Pinch the crown jewels?
You're warm. Step on it and do your best, will you?
Did you pull a heist?
No.
Okay, you've got an honest face. All right, Governor. There's nothing keeping this act together but termites holding hands, but here we go.
That big car in the back didn't lose an inch. Limehouse and I had to go through an empty stretch of road. So I told him I thought that's where the mugs in the big car would make their pitch, and...
Yes, you're right, but I've got an idea.
Well, I can use it.
Listen, look down the street. See that turn to the right?
Yeah?
I'll get close to the curb as I can, and you get ready for a jump.
Huh? Jump?
Sure. I'll act like I'm going straight, but where I showed you, I'll turn fast to the right. You jump out, roll in a doorway or something.
Well, what about you?
I'll make a U-turn back out and pull the mugs down the street after me. You got it?
Got it. Oh, here's your fare. Plus.
Ain't had so much fun since Coney Island. Okay, pal. Try for the brass ring. Nah!
Attaboy, Limehouse. It worked. I collected a few bruises, but I still had the diamond. Farther down the road, Limehouse stopped. He had to because the boys in the big car angled in front of his cab. I waited long enough to make sure Limehouse was going to keep his health. Then I doubled back and forth until I came out on a main street. There I took a bus. I felt like having lots of people around. I got to the Vendome Hotel, walked to the desk, and told the clerk I wanted to leave a package for Monsieur William Martin. Oh, brother, I got the surprise of my life when the clerk told me there was no Monsieur William Martin registered there. Well, I sat down to figure that one out. Then, just when I was about to give up,
Holiday. No. Don't look at me.
Martin, what the devil?
Pretend that you are not speaking to me. Now, you have the stone?
Yes, but I almost did that.
What happened?
It's a long story. You want to hear it now?
No. We have not enough time. Look, I will put part of my newspaper on the sofa between us. Then, when no one is looking, put the diamond under the paper.
Okay, then what?
After a minute, I will pick up the newspaper and leave.
Oh, and I hope this ice goes with you, Mr. Martin.
It will. Don't worry.
Well, that looked like it. All finished. I counted chickens that weren't there. A half hour later, I went to the room of my hotel. I just had the door open when... I woke from my deep dream of peace with a knot on my head and a distaste for the whole proceedings. And the room? Well, it was in shambles. Somebody had fine-combed it after drumming on my head. The manager knew nothing about it. Well, that made us even because I couldn't figure why somebody took the trouble to slug me and search the room when I didn't have the diamond. Unless somebody thought I was still carrying it. That somebody? I had an idea, and 40 minutes later, I was sitting across from Irene Carson at a little sidewalk cafe.
Mr. Holliday, you're insane.
I will be after another knock on the head.
But why do you accuse me?
Because no one but Martin knew where I was going to stay in Paris. And you.
But this is ridiculous. How should I know?
The letter you said dropped out of my pocket.
It did drop from your pocket, and I did not read it. Really, I think this is a ridiculous story. A Mr. Martin who wasn't at his hotel to pick up a diamond worth $1 million, men chasing you, hitting you, searching your room. And now, simply because I had my hands on a letter, you accuse me of...
Who else knew?
You're Mr. Martin. And that's another thing. I never saw you with anyone on that plane. You spoke to no one. You got off alone. Really, Mr. Holliday, it's a fantastic story.
No one saw me with Martin.
Exactly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get back to Le Bourget. You've taken up too much of my time already.
All right, Miss Carson. But will you do me a favor?
What? Confess to the whole thing? Admit I'm a notorious international jewel thief?
No, just get me on a plane back to the States. Look, I apologize.
All right. All right, I accept the apology. And I'll do my best to get you out of Paris. You seem to be allergic to trouble here.
You're so right, Miss Carson. You're so right. After that rigmarole in Paris, New York's LaGuardia Airport sure looked good to me. I was leaving the field when...
Welcome home, Holliday.
Well, Kling, what a nice surprise.
I've got more. Come on.
Hey, wait a minute. What is this?
You're a writer. Write a line for yourself now.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about a pinch, Holliday, which this is.
Arrested? No, wait a minute. It didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. On the way into the city, Kling wouldn't say a word. For every question I asked, he growled. But finally, in his office...
Where's the diamond, Holliday?
Diamond?
Mirabulis. Where is it?
I smuggled it in, Kling.
So you got through customs. Now quit stalling. Where is it?
Are you kidding?
$1 million in ice and nobody, kids. Nobody.
Now, wait a minute. Why did you pick me up?
I stopped in at your office to say hello, and Susie told me that you were in Paris. Yesterday, we got word from Jason Vandercliff that the Mirabulis Diamond he was to get from Paris hasn't shown up. We checked with the Paris police. A guy named Corey...
Described me. Is that it?
Yeah. Susie tells me you're in Paris. Corey describes you, and 2 and 2 make 4. Now, start talking.
Well, I told Kling the story, starting with Martin's letter to Box 13 and ending with my return to the States.
Can you prove that yarn?
Get Martin and ask him.
That'll be a little tough. He's dead.
What?
Yeah. When did you leave for Paris?
Day before yesterday.
Martin's body was found in the river that day. We didn't get an identification until yesterday. Vandercliff identified him.
Kling, you're crazy. I tell you, Martin went to Paris on the same plane with me.
Here's Martin's photograph. Take a good look.
This isn't Martin.
Vandercliff ought to know. His own agent.
And the Martin I went with was a fake.
Yeah. Who probably killed the real Martin. Took his place, used his own photo and the credentials he showed you. That's a brilliant remark.
But the crooks who chased me in Paris, my being hit over the head after I got the diamond,
Yeah, it's easy to figure now. Your fake Martin sent those hoods after you to get the diamond and get rid of you for good so you couldn't identify him.
That's why he wasn't registered at the hotel, because he didn't expect me to show up at the diamond.
And the crack over the head, your room searched.
Sure. When I got away from his boys, he sent them to my room, thinking I might go back there before I went to the Vendôme. I walked in while they were searching the room, and they slugged me. Don't you see, Kling, I'm in the clear.
Yeah? How?
Well, because I had nothing to do with the
Holiday, you've got your story. But only Martin can keep you out of jail.
Then you've got to find Martin.
How? He must have taken an earlier flight from Paris.
But how could he get the diamond through customs?
I don't know. You know, Holiday, this looks like the end of Box 13 for you. Martin loses himself in a city of 7 million, lays low, and leaves you to take the rap.
What if I find him?
You'll still have to make him talk.
Listen, Kling. You know I've never been mixed up in anything shady. Maybe I've been roped in because I follow things through, but never deliberately.
What are you getting at?
Well, will you let me find Martin?
How? You're our only link with him, and you don't know a thing about him. He could dye his hair, leave off his glasses.
I know, but if I don't find him, I'm in trouble. Is that right?
You've never been more right in all your life.
All right. If I don't find him in 24 hours, I'll walk back in here, and you can do what you want with me. Is that a deal?
You know, Holiday, that when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a cop. My father wanted me to be a sign painter. Now I realize my father was a smart man. All right. Go ahead.
A needle in a haystack. I was hunting for it, and it was a pretty sharp needle. Any character who could think up a frame as neat as this one would be tough to locate, if he was still in town. But I had to go ahead. It took me 2 hours to remember something that would help me. 7 hours more to follow it up, and an hour to get hold of Irene Carson and take her with me. Then call Kling and give him the setup. It was later that night that I knocked on a door.
Yes? Who is it?
Telegram from Mr. Benjamin Slade.
Oh, one moment, please.
Hello, Martin.
What?
I used to be a salesman. I'm good at sticking my foot in doors.
Who are you?
Mother Hubbard, and I've come to take a look in your cupboard, Mr. Martin.
My name is Slade, Benjamin Slade.
So, you did dye your hair. And you're much prettier without glasses.
I have never seen you before in my life.
Yes, but I've seen too much of you. Come on, Slade, or Martin, give it up, will you?
What brought you here?
One of your peculiar cigarettes. I remembered I tried to smoke one when I first met you.
You are insane.
Yeah? I went to your fake office in Wabash Place. There was an ashtray with some cigarette butts still in it. It took me 7 hours to run down the dealer who makes your cigarettes.
Clever. But I still deny ever having seen you before in my life.
Oh? Okay, let's try something else. Come in, please, will you? Martin, this is Miss Carson. Our stewardess on the trip over, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Miss Carson, is this the man who gave you the letter to give to me?
Yes, that's the man.
I did not...
Oh. Slips count in this game, Martin. Besides, your handwriting in the letter can be identified.
You're too much too clever.
Duck, Miss Carson? Okay, Martin, without a gun, you're just another sitting duck. Now get up and come on.
But, Mr. Holliday, how did Mr. Martin get the diamond over here?
He was too smart for that, Susie. He left it in Paris.
Oh.
He got out and planned to return later. The Paris police have found it.
You know, he was pretty silly.
Silly? Oh, how'd you figure that out, Susie?
Well, $1 million? Jeepers, look at all the income tax he'd have to pay on it.
Huh? Oh. Good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Alan Ladd appears through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures. Watch for him in his latest picture, Saigon. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with an original story by Saul Shore, adapted for radio by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker and Lieutenant Kling by Edmund MacDonald. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. This is a Mayfair production from Hollywood.
I mentioned earlier that Alan Ladd owned a big chunk of this radio series. Well, Mayfair Productions, the company that you heard mentioned producing the show, Alan Ladd and Bernie Jocelyn. Jocelyn had previously run a chain of restaurants, Mayfair Restaurants. That's where the name word came from. So there you go. Box 13 starring Alan Ladd, going well back to November 21st, 1948, 71 years ago today. Visit my friend Ted at radiomemories.com. He provides shows on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer, very well restored, as they should be, for your dining and dancing pleasure and for your listening pleasure. That's at radiomemories.com, and tell Ted I sent you by. He's done a whole bunch of new restorations lately. Check him out. Also, visit my webpage, classicradio.stream. Stream our shows on demand. Learn more about building a classic radio collection of your own. You can also find a list of places where our shows are available for download via podcast. You can also find our social media links, and you can also contact me there at classicradio.stream. If you want to help us build our classic radio collection, you can buy me a copy. That buy me a copy money goes not only to building our classic radio collection, but also expanding the reach of our classic radio programs. We appreciate you so much for taking ownership of our show. We greatly appreciate you being there. Have yourself a great day. Thank this station. Support the advertisers. Tell your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.